Good evening and welcome to Vikings Happy Hour presented by Lake Monster Brewing and That's Badass Wood Art. I'm your host, Ryan Ortega, and we have a great show for you today. We got Jonas joining us all the way from Germany. Thank you, Jonas, for joining us. And we're going to talk Vikings defensive woes. We're going to go into kind of what's happening. Is it salvageable? Can we fix things? We'll also go into some offensive woes. Something that's not talked about enough is the run game issues that we're having right now. So we'll dive into that a little. Of course, we're not all doom and gloom on this show. We'll talk some positives of what went well last game as well, and then dive into the Colts game. So go grab a drink, and we'll be back in just 1 minute.
Welcome to Vikings Happy Hour, where we mix our favorite beverage and talk of your Minnesota Vikings. Skol!
Welcome back here, everyone, to Vikings Happy Hour. I'm your host, Ryan Ortega. We are a little short-handed today from our regular crew. Matt and Miles are a little busy, but as always, Dave is here with us in the producer chair helping us out there. And we got a special guest here tonight. We got Jonas. And is it Stark? Is that how you say it?
It's actually Stärk. The
That's
the
very
ST
German.
is a little bit different than Americans or any English native speakers are usually doing it, and of course the umlaut, which has gotten famous when the Vikings drafted a certain wide receiver in 2016.
Yes, yes, yeah, absolutely. No, that's funny. So yeah, we got Jonas joining us tonight from Germany, and I think he just told me it's 3 a.m. there. So I just called him insane for joining the show, but I greatly appreciate it as we were a little shorthanded tonight. Jonas, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, if we talk about happy hour, it's probably a little bit too late or way too early for that. But otherwise, I'm fine. And it also actually is a good way to get me back into the rhythm here because I struggled a little bit with that when I returned from the States to Germany. And this is actually something that should help.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's dive into that just a little bit if we could. So obviously, I know you spoke about it a little bit on the final score when you were here, but I'd love to just hear a little bit more about your experience here in Minneapolis. Not only did you go to the Vikings game, but you also went to I think a Wolves and a Wild game. So and maybe a little hiccup with some of the money issues there that thankfully I was able to kind of help out with. So walk us through a little bit about your experience here.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's obviously a little bit different, although I wouldn't say it was like a culture shock or something. Like, it's still basically Western culture, so it's not that different. I definitely get now why everybody is saying that pretty much everything is bigger in the United States because there's a lot of things where this is just the case, especially when we talk about the cities. The streets normally have way more space than they used to have here, and stuff like that. So yeah, and yeah, on the food side as well, a little bit like big, what you would call a big portion in Germany or Europe isn't exactly big uh, there. So it's there are some things that are different, but overall, I think it was definitely a fun experience, and I absolutely enjoyed it there. I don't know if I would want to live in this United States permanently, but I will definitely visit Minneapolis again.
Yeah, very good. Hopefully, you hit up another Vikings game because you were a good luck charm. We did win that game, so that was good. That was good. So, unlike when you were here, we did take a loss this last weekend to the Lions. Of course, that was a road game, so obviously you're expecting for the you're expecting for it to be a little bit of a tougher conditions, being in a road game and playing an upbeat team that's really feeling themselves right now. And going into the game, how did you feel one going into the game, and then we'll kind of get into the game itself from there.
To be honest, I wasn't that surprised because the Lions currently, especially on offense, are pretty red hot. Um, I mean, they won like 4 out of 5, I think, and yeah, they were pretty hot going into this game. The Vikings obviously rested a few starters. Darisaw probably would have played if this was a playoff game. Harrison Smith probably would have played if this was a playoff game. Bradbury perhaps too. I don't know. I don't know how much banged up he was, but uh, the other two guys I mentioned definitely would have played if this was a playoff game. And I think, um, as much as we obviously hope that the Vikings would go in with the same intensity every week, but I think it was very obvious very early that for the Lions, this was an all or nothing game. And for the Vikings, it just wasn't. And you could feel that very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, their backs were against the wall. They need to pretty much win out to have a chance at the playoffs, and us, to your point. And I think Warren Ellers here in the chat also kind of said the same thing. You know, was it worth us putting Darisaw at risk, Harrison Smith at risk, some of these other players who we rested for another win to secure a playoff spot, right? I mean, we have quite a few games to be able to do that. We have a relatively easy schedule to be able to do that as well. Not saying that any of these will be a cakewalk because nothing has been this year, but in theory, we should be able to win one or two of those. Yeah, Dave, let's dive into some of those questions here. I know you had this fun infographics here. Perfect, perfect. All right, so the first question I want to kind of dive into, Jonas, is just recapping that defensive disaster. From your viewpoint, I know you watch a lot of tape kind of after the fact and rewatch a lot of stuff. What's going on with the defense? Is there anything that we could do to be more effective, efficient? I know the Minnesota media this today just really hounded Ed Donatel on a lot of these data points, right? Of what can be done. Is it scheme? Is it execution? So on and so forth. From your viewpoint, what are you seeing?
I definitely, and I know it's an very unpopular opinion right now, but I'm actually thinking that a lot of the stuff that Ed Donatel said on his presser today is true because I think a lot of the issues right now come down to execution, come down to uh, players still thinking about their responsibilities, about their points of emphasis. It's still a work in progress, and I know it's late in the season and some things should be better, but it is about execution. It just is. Um, and we carried over a defense on most positions that has been very, very bad for 2 straight years going into this season. There was only one real upgrade um, on the defensive side of the ball, which has been Zadarius Smith. You also, of course, could argue Daniel Hunter because he barely played the last 2 years, but otherwise, the personnel has been pretty much the same. And this personnel now had to learn a new scheme. an entirely different scheme. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions at this point about what the defense is doing well, what the defense isn't doing well, and a lot of stuff uh, that's out there that's just not backed up by the facts. I think one of the best examples is the thing about blitzing more. The Vikings did blitz more, a lot more over the last few weeks. They had a season high in blitzes against the Lions. They had 31% of Goff's dropbacks blitzed, and Goff went 9 of 11 for 122 yards in those dropbacks. And the Vikings actually had a lower pressure rate than in week 3 against this same Lions team with a much lower blitz rate, because if you're gonna blitz, you put your coverage players in a way tougher spot. And at this point, I think the pass rush, it has been actually quite good over this season, and it has been good even over the last few weeks. But quarterbacks are able to get the ball out very quickly because we have open receivers running all over us. And if we start to blitz more, we take away resources from our coverage unit, which is already struggling.
Hmm.
And that's also the other thing that Donatel mentioned on this press conference, because he said that the pass rush has been getting very close very often, and that's the case. It is the Vikings have one of the highest pressure rates in the NFL, and it has gotten a little bit lower over the last few weeks, which again is notable uh, due to the fact that they have been blitzing more. So
Yeah.
a lot of the things that fans want right now are actually happening right now, and it just isn't working. And the other thing is that fans have told that Donatel is trying to just implement his scheme and doesn't adjust. He has adjusted a lot. This is not the final version of the defense that he wants to install here. It isn't even close. His coverages are a lot different. This scheme usually has a big amount of pattern match coverage. This pattern match coverage is kind of a mix between zone and man coverage, and we are just not seeing it here with the Vikings at all. Mostly because either the players can execute it, and because you need much chemistry and communication, and that's something that always isn't that already isn't working with the spot zones they are playing right now. And this defense has been adjusted quite a bit. They have been putting Hunter in more 3-point stands than they used to at the beginning of the season. So they have tried a lot. The only
Yeah.
thing that has stayed the same is the results, and that's that this defense just isn't very good, and it just and at some point you just have to think about the personnel, and that this unit just isn't good enough to be a good defense, because you either have players that just aren't very talented, and the talented players on this defense are mostly approaching or are already over the age of 30.
Right. Right. And I mean that's exactly the point here too that I was going to make, is that we're used to seeing these heralded defensive players for the Vikings, the Eric Kendricks of the world, the Harrison Smiths of the world, play at such a high level that it covered up probably a lot in our previous regime, that allowed them to look absolutely fantastic, and or allowed other players to look good. Right. It used to be the old saying, you put anyone next to Harrison Smith and they're going to be a Pro Bowl type player. You look at Anthony Harris, you look at Andrew Sendejo. A lot of players looked really good next to him. Same with Eric Kendricks. When you put in Eric Wilson next to him, he played at a very, very well. He wasn't great, but he got a lot of tackles. So, and thank you everyone for listening in right now. Our chat is just blowing up with a lot of different feelings about this defense right now. Some I agree with, some I don't. And some are agreeing with Jonas, some aren't. But when you look at this defense, from my perspective, right, I think it's a good mix of both. I agree with you, Jonas. I think that we are adjusting things. I think our talent is pretty it's not the top talent that we're used to seeing on this defense, and it's hard to execute a good scheme when the talent that you need to execute it isn't in house right now. And there's only so much we can do with one off season with relatively no money to put towards it, right? So we were trying to make do with what we have, and this is what Kwesi was talking about when we said a competitive rebuild. He knew we could be competitive on the offensive side given the talent we have on the offense, but the defense was going to be the rebuild part of this, and he knew we'd be able to win games. But could we hold teams off that have these stronger offenses with this defense, and that's where it's going to be tough. But at the same time, the scheme I don't think is a perfect design either. Even with the deficient talent, there's plenty of defenses out there who have less talent than we do, and their defenses are playing better because of their scheme and because of the positions that we're putting that their coaches are putting them in. I was watching the game this Sunday, and you could just bet any amount of money that if they were third and long or second and long, what the middle of the middle of the field is wide open every single time. There's something you can do. Like there's a schematic way that you can prevent that from happening and make them second guess where they need to look, because every single time Goff got into a situation, he looked over the middle of the field, especially near the end of the game, and it was open. And they found a guy, they converted. That's not necessarily or I think that's more of a scheme thing of not adjusting. You also have the situation in which you're talking about the blitzing, right? I agree. We are blitzing more. And I think that puts specifically this defense, who has a weaker back seven, at risk, because we don't have great players back there right now. That puts us at risk. All of our talents up front. And while I do like a good blitz here and there, the issue is that the blitzes aren't getting home. We're just as effective rushing 4 right now as we are rushing 5 or 6. So we need better. I mean, you're right. It's probably partly play call or execution of the play call, but it might just be also the play call. Like, can we get more creative with these blitzes, with some more stunts with the blitz, sending different kinds of guys? I haven't, and I don't have any data to back this up, but like I don't remember ever seeing like a corner blitz. That might throw somebody off. Rotate the coverage over top, and again, I could be wrong here, but I just haven't seen a ton of it, right? Or just kind of throw them off some way with the way you are blitzing, or even fake blitzing and pulling out of it. Show a heavy blitz and then pull out of that real quick, just to kind of get that quarterback's mental processing going a little faster and maybe make a mistake. You haven't seen it a ton, but at the same time, these players seem to execute better.
Yeah, that's actually something I would like to see, to have them more stuffed on the line of scrimmage and then just back out. So you have to guess which player is coming, which player is not. That is something that I would really like to see more. And that is something that Mike Zimmer did a lot and did it very well. And the other thing with the more exotic blitz looks, would be fun. But on the other hand, then you would also have to, if you just don't want to send the house, you would have to drop certain guys into coverage, and then Twitter would blow up again, because you would probably see guys like Daniil Hunter in coverage more. You would probably see Zadarius Smith coverage, or DJ One, or some of the edge guys. And that's something that's also way overblown right now, because Hunter isn't dropping in coverage a lot. Zadarius Smith isn't dropping in coverage a lot. Daniel Hunter has 27 coverage snaps this season, which is pretty normal for an edge rusher. And to give a little perspective of that, I actually looked it up before, and Hunter is, I think, 29th when it comes to coverage snaps this season among 59 qualifying among 60 qualifying edge rushers, so right in the middle. And to give you some names of guys who have been dropping in coverage more than Daniel Hunter, you have Khalil Mack, Chandler Jones, Trey Hendrickson, Matthew Judon, Brian Burns, obviously Micah Parsons because he's playing a different role, but you have all those top tier edge rushers who have been dropping in coverage more than Daniel Hunter has been. So this narrative is way, way overblown. And
Yeah. Yep.
if we want to see more exotic blitz looks, we would have to do this more. And this is the thing that uh, I think is missing the point in a lot of these discussions. If you do those things that fans want to do, it's always a trade-off. You would always have to do something else to kind of set it off. And this is the thing. You can't just call more blitzes, have the players play tighter coverage, and also send more exotic looks without sending the edge rushers into coverage. It's like it's a trade-off, and you can't just do all of it. You have to know
Yeah.
what it means if you do some of it.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and to your point, yeah, people are going to have to see, yeah, like you said, a DJ Wanham out in the flat getting juked by a running back in open field while he's going on his route if that blitz doesn't get picked up, right? Or if that blitz does get picked up, then we're going to probably see a big play anyway. So, yeah, very good point there. Before we get into the next question here, just want to again thank everyone listening in and throwing these comments in. I want to make sure that they keep coming in. We'll kind of call you out as we see some that interest us or good questions that pop up. Also, want to just quick give another shout out to our sponsor, Lake Monster Brewing. Fantastic beer up in St. Paul, Minnesota. Make sure you go check them out. They got some really good beer on tap right now that you'll definitely appreciate. So go check them out. And they do have a what is this called, Dave? There's a little event that they're having, right?
Cookies for Santa. They are partnered with Good Diaper Association. They're doing a local drive. And Sunday, during game time, they will be having a family get-together where you can take pictures with Santa. Santa will be there. And you can make cookies for Santa and for yourself. And all the while, having a good time and meeting people. And if you can't make the game, i.e. in the stadium, you can always go here and watch. And it's the perfect excuse for dad to bring the family, have them sit, make cookies. Mom hustles them up to, Santa Claus as he's drinking beer and watching the game on the TV.
Perfect.
But
That
it's a
sounds
good
like a
it's a
great
good
plan.
sponsorship for the community, and it will be a blast.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. So yeah, I want to dive into the next topic here. Of course, we could sit here and talk defense all day. These 4 or 5 games in a row with 400 plus yards given up. It's just an embarrassing thing. But again, let's just get away from the defense for just a second. I do want to talk about one other worrisome thing, and then we can get into some positivity. The next thing I want to talk about is just our offensive running game. So we obviously the offense is getting some praise right now. A lot is going to Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and everything that they're doing, which is in all reality is just fantastic to see. But one thing that isn't going super well right now is the run game recently. And I wanted to bring Dave back from behind the camera here because Dave, You got to talk to me about this offensive line. What's happening with the run game? Is it on them? Is it Dalvin Cook struggling to find the holes? What's happening that it's this run game is struggling so much?
A combination of both. And then in this last game, you had two non-starters up there trying, and they were getting beat. It's generally the offensive line is done well. They do great in run blocking. So if they're doing well in run blocking, that points to either the play calling or the decisions made by Cook / Madison on how they're cutting back, or when to cut back, or when to hit the hole, not to hit the hole, etc. I think those are off just a little bit. I think there's changes from the Kubiak system. We know there is. That was the wide zone. We're running the inside zone, which focuses more across the middle, but that should work. But they're not hitting the holes a lot of times at full speed. You'll see Kirk in shotgun turn off and hand off to Dalvin Cook. Well, the problem with doing a run play out of shotgun, it can be done. There are good people at it, but you don't get the head of steam. The running back doesn't get the head of steam and looking at the line as he's coming up and grabbing the ball. There's that difference, and that little bit may be enough to see what we're seeing and be the cause. Plus, I think Dalvin's gotten a year older. He still has, that potential for burst. He had that long 85-yarder, but we're not seeing those big burst plays like we used to. So I think it's a combination of everything, whether it be the play setups, some of the blocking, and the guy's getting older. I would like to see more Madison. I'd like to see more, thunder and lightning style, bang one, bang the other, bang, bang type of
That'd
running
be
game.
thunder and thunder. I don't think either of them are lightning much anymore.
Well,
but that brings me to my point here. So there's a couple comments here that have come out. Warren and there was somebody else I had mentioned. What about Ty Chandler just coming off IR, designated to return? Do we get him some reps? Do we get Kenny Wangu some reps? Like, is that a possibility, Jonas?
Not too sure about Nwangu, to be honest, because I think there is a lot of stuff about being a running back that just he's basically just fast. He has some solid open field vision, which you need if you are a good kick returner. But I think that's about it. I think he's not a running back that you have in a lot of offensive packages. Of course, you can do something with his speed, but I think he's a gimmick in my opinion, and not much there as a traditional running back. I think Ty Chandler is a different beast. Ty Chandler has been a traditional running back on college at college. Nwangu wasn't. Therefore, um, there is a little bit different experience there, and Ty Chandler is very good receiver out of the backfield, which is something that Cook, in my opinion, struggled with. At least in the traditional running game, yes, he is good in the screen game because that's just dumping the ball off and getting him in space. That's where he is good. But otherwise, um, I don't think he is a very good receiving back, and Ty Chandler is that. So at least
Sure.
I would like to see him a little bit on third downs because I think he would give you a little bit a different dimension, which the Vikings at this point don't have. Right now, the
Sure.
Vikings often have their running backs back in pass protection, um, and all the running backs have been struggling mightily in pass protection this year. And I think one of the reasons the Vikings are bad against the blitz is because running backs have been struggling to pick it up. And yeah, but to get back to the running game, I think this Detroit game was kind of an outlier because first, Dave already mentioned it. we had two offensive line starters out, and I would say the two probably most valuable run blockers we have. Well, you could count in Brian O'Neill, but I think Bradbury and Darisaw are probably the most impactful run blockers we have on this offensive line. And therefore, if you have both of them out, it had to matter. And the other thing is that the Lions played the running game very aggressively. And I think this is another reason why it was never working. I think the Lions basically said, okay, we don't have the guys to stop this passing game, so at least make them one dimensional. We pull all of our guys up. We defend the running game, make sure they just can't run at all, and then we don't care if they drop like 350 or 400 yards passing on us, but at least we don't let them run, because that's basically the only thing on this offense that we can stop if we put resources into it. And I think that's the game plan they kind of had, and it kind of
That's a good
worked
point,
because,
James.
yeah, I think it worked because they put the Vikings into some tough third down spot. The Vikings converted a lot of them, but they also made a few mistakes along the way. And I think that's what the Lions were going for. And knowing that this was probably going to be a shootout, this was enough for them. So I
Yeah.
think that
And
was
I
the
mean, that
plan all along.
reminds me a little bit of what we did to Dallas a couple years ago. Same kind of thing. We put every resource we had into stopping Zeke, and dared Dak Prescott to beat us, and we ended up coming away with that win down at the Dallas Palace there, down there in Dallas. So, very interesting. Well, one of the things that I read today, again, just going back to offensive line before we get into some more positive talk here, was over the last few days when Darisaw is in, we're running at a clip of like 3 yards or like 2.5 yards better per carry than when he's not in. So obviously he's been hurt quite a bit for the last few games. But when he's in the game, we're running at a significantly better yards per carry average. One interesting tidbit there. Another thing that I read today was that Kirk Cousins is the most hit quarterback in the league right now. Dave, this was our offensive line. We thought we finally figured it out. Obviously, we've had some injuries. I get it. Your best pass protector is out over the last 3 of the last 4 games or whatever it is.
And that
So
affects
obviously
the
that hurts
play
you
of
quite a bit.
that affects the play of Ezra Cleveland as well. And especially last week when you had Bradbury out. The guards are Ezra's having to do everything on the left side. Help the center, help the tackle, right? And he didn't have a good game doing that. On the right side, when they're out, Ed's still got his problem. Ed's getting better, but he's still got his problem. He overcommits. He overextends sometimes. Those are things he'll learn. He's just a rookie. It's going to take time. Linemen usually don't get it until year 3, or at least 3 to 4. I'm not worried about Ed. It's not as good as we'd like. Yes, we're getting a lot of QB hits. Part of that, however, is Kirk Cousins. Before, Kirk Cousins would just turn around. If anybody got close, he'd turn around and chuck the ball out of bounds. He's not doing it. He's looking downfield. He's looking for somebody to come open or get close to it, Justin Jefferson, and heave the ball. So he's taking more hits that way. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not worried about it. He's tough. Hopefully it's not building up on him, and he's going. Do I want my offensive line better? Oh, hell yes, I do. Absolutely. Especially in pass blocking. But there's really nothing. We talk about the defense. Is there anything that's going to be changed that's significant? There's especially nothing going to change that's significant on the offensive line. But I don't think they're doing that badly. They literally are. When I looked prior to last week's game, I think DVOA had them as the 17th offensive ranked offensive line. That
I'm
puts them
okay with
smack
that.
dab in the middle. That's
Yeah.
mediocre. That's what we wanted.
Yep.
That is a ton better than last from the previous year. So it's an improvement.
Yeah.
That
It's getting better.
and like I said, Kirk's braver this year. We're seeing him
And
actually climbing the pocket, right? To key
on brand.
on brand. But we're seeing him do that. We're seeing him move this year and helping,
Yeah, I mean, when he
trying to help.
stepped up on that one pass, and I can't remember exactly who he darted it to, but climbed the pocket beautifully, ducked over a arm coming his way, and delivered a ball for a big first down against the Lions here. Just beautiful. And this is a perfect segue, right? Let's talk some positivity here, okay? We've been so negative for the first 39-ish minutes of this show. Real quick, Warren, you had mentioned you wanted Darisaw to sit out until the end of the until playoffs. Brando just went out with an MCL, so we really don't. We've seen Udo play. We haven't seen Vidarian Lowe play, but I don't think we really want to. I don't know for sure because I shouldn't talk bad on this guy if I've never really seen him play. But if Darisaw's healthy, which supposedly he is, let's get him in there and
my
let's
question
shore up
is
this playoff spot.
how long does it take to heal from a concussion?
Forever, potentially. I don't know. They're all different.
To where, if it's too bad, it could be. And accumulation over time, yes, you develop CTE or can develop CTE. But when it comes to short term, how long does it take? And Darisaw's been out, 3 weeks now?
Yep. After having two back to back, right?
After having two back to back.
Yeah.
He says he's fine. Everybody's cleared. He was cleared last week, and they held him out for the one game. At what point do you say, well, I want to hold him out so long, and you say, well, I'm only going to play him in the playoffs? Is that good for Darisaw? Is that good for the team? If he's healthy to go now? That's like saying, hey, let's pull Kirk Cousins and put in the backup. Well, why? Well, in case he gets hurt. Well, that's not how the game's played. The game's played. If you're healthy or close to it and you can perform, you go out there and you play. You earn that spot. You earn the right to do that. So go do that. And then everybody says he's healthy, including Darisaw. Go out there and play. There's no benefit to holding him back right now.
I agree. Great. Well, let's move to some positivity here. So we obviously played super well in the past game. Jonas, what was working for us? What was Jefferson able to do to go break Sammy White's record?
I mean, what Jefferson is able to do and what's working for him is pretty much everything at this point. He is good at the catch point. He wins contested catches. He obviously is one of the best route runners in the league. He is absolutely phenomenal when it comes to the leverage game. So he is great at setting up his defenders in a way he wants. Like, the funny thing is, when I was over there in Minneapolis and they had that touchdown to him, when I saw the defensive alignment, I was like, okay, that's going to be a Jefferson 10-yard out route because of the leverage this guy had. He played kind of with outside leverage, but he was already cheating inside. So we pretty much knew that Jefferson would just go a little bit inside, bait him there, and then go outside. And that's just the stuff he does on a regular basis. And I think this is what makes him most dangerous at this point. And I think the only way you can cover him is to have a guy aggressive at the line of scrimmage, who pushes him off, who doesn't give him the room to play with the leverage, and then have a guy over the top that brackets him. Like, that's the only way. But that way you have to occupy two guys on every play, and that's just not gonna happen. And we've seen Adam Thielen looking a little bit better than he looked at the beginning of the season. We have seen TJ Hawkinson fitting right in with this offense. So you can't just put two guys on Jefferson now the way the Eagles and the Lions did early in the season. And therefore, it's hard to just get Jefferson to slow Jefferson down in any way, because if he's one on one, he wins. That's just the way it is. If he's one on one,
And even if he's
you
covered, I mean,
yeah.
like even if they play perfect defense, he's just, I don't know, like he's almost better when he has a contested catch situation than when he's open. Like he's dropped a couple balls this year, but he doesn't really drop many contested catch opportunities. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, and we actually, when he was in the draft process, everybody was talking about how physicality is probably his weakness. And at the start of the route, it's still true. That's the one thing where you can get him if you are very aggressive and very physical at the release. But again, if you want to do that, you have to have a guy over the top, and you can't just always do that. And even on, I think it was the Thielen touchdown. I'm not sure if all it was a play right in the red zone where you could see this impact, because you had Jefferson and Thielen on the same side, and the two guys they were matched up with both went with Jefferson, and then Thielen was wide open, and yeah, that's just the impact he has. And even if he isn't the guy who's targeted, he still impacts the game because of the resources that defenses just put into stopping him. And yeah, that's what people pretended Dalvin Cook was for us for years, because everybody was like, okay, Dalvin Cook is occupying those resources and therefore opens up the passing game. That's not how it works, because it's different with the running game, but it's the way it works with Jefferson. And therefore, Jefferson is the guy who makes this offense go. And this offensive success is just 100% dependent on him. If he gets going, there's not much you can do to stop this offense.
And to Clifford's point, Kirk Cousins has been, his ball placement's been great. That's never really been an issue for Kirk. But what's changed about Kirk is that I feel like either he's gotten the green light or he's just gained more confidence in Justin Jefferson, where he's giving him the opportunity more often than not to make these plays, which again, if you're one-on-one in tight coverage, bracket coverage, whatever it might be, I mean, even in two-on-one situations, he's throwing them up the ball and giving him a chance. And again, Jefferson's making plays happen, where typically that's a CJ Ham dump off, that's a tight end dump off, that's a 4 yards short of the sticks on third down, play to the slot receiver, and we're punting, right? Kirk Cousins is being a lot more aggressive. So where all the credit deservedly goes to Justin Jefferson because he has to make these impactful plays, Kirk Cousins giving him the opportunity to do so, and Kevin O'Connell's giving Kirk Cousins the green light to do so, which has made such an impact on the offense this year. One of the other bright spots. I mean, I know it's not sexy or whatever, but and I think is it Janae in the comments here? Gosh, I'm really bad with, or Lene in the comments. Our punter. Our punter is, consistently, of course, like you don't think of a punter as just a super bright spot ever. And I know we had a big punt return this year this last week that went, pretty well for the Lions. But overall, for the most part, we've had great punting, and that does change the game quite a bit when you're talking punting from your own, 10 yard line or closer, and you're putting it, completely flipping the field back over to their 15-20. I mean, those are like those are plays that are not sexy, but they make the biggest impact when it comes to being able to come back and win these games, when we're in these close games. It makes a big impact for us to be able to execute the way we need to. Um, Awesome. So we spent a majority of time lolling on the past. Let's look forward to the game here this weekend here. Jonas, why don't you start us off? What do we have to look forward to? Obviously, Colts typically really strong defense. Offense is quite poor outside their run game, which has struggled this year compared to last, but has picked up over, ever since Jonathan Taylor's gotten a little bit healthier. It's kind of picked up a little bit. So, luckily, if we were to have a strength on this defense, it's not a very great strength, but it is the run defense, right? I mean, we have actually played relatively well against the run. That's going to be their best part of their game. Do we just implement what the Lions just did to us and put all of our resources into stopping Jonathan Taylor and saying, go ahead and try to beat us with Matt Ryan's noodle arm and against Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell and I forget who else they have out there, but is that the strategy we should be going out with?
I would disagree with that because then you would have to pull up the linebackers, and the middle of the field is already pretty open for us all season. And if you do that, um, yeah, you just make that worse. Similar with more blitzing. I think that's one of the reasons why the issues in the middle of the field have gotten worse again after they, in my opinion, improved a bit after the bye week, and then when they started blitzing more and they also had some injuries, then the middle of the field just got wide open just again. And I think that's the only thing where this Colts team could beat us. If they can consistently attack the middle of the field, that's when things are going to get different. It's you already mentioned the arm strength that obviously isn't there anymore for Matt Ryan. So let's force him to test this arm strength. What I want to see is to have the safeties a little bit more aggressive in the middle of the field, to have, in general, the coverage is a little bit more forward, a little bit more cover two to get the flat zones covered, and then you just you force him to throw deep. You force him to throw outside. That's the one thing I want to see, because that's where I think he's gonna make mistakes, because then the throws are going to be late. They are uh, he just he just doesn't have the arm strength to hit those, and therefore I wouldn't do something that opens up the middle of the field, because that's again the only place where he can beat us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brandon, can you stop that real quick, please? Sorry, my son's filling up his water
Hey,
bottle.
Ryan,
um,
getting
um,
back to the run defense, I pulled up PFF and looked at our run defensive grade is a 85.8. We are second in the league per PFF against the run. And we got everybody back healthy on the defensive line with Tomlinson and Phillips in the middle. And I think that helps.
well,
And it's a
and
good way
Dave,
to
part
attack
of
the
that
Colts.
though, a little bit, Dave, is the fact that they can just throw on us, like
Well, that may.
you know what I mean?
What?
Like they're getting up on us, right? They're able to throw the ball at will. So they throw in some run to kind of keep us just from pinning our tail, or whatever, that pinning our ears back to rush the passer. So they throw in some runs, and obviously I don't think they even care about that, because they know that, to Jonas's point, we got to protect the middle. They know we haven't been able to do that most of the year, right?
Right.
So I think it might be a little inflated, but as I mentioned earlier, it is the best part of our defense right now.
I actually don't think that this is inflated because if we talk about total stats, that would probably be the case. But um, if we look at efficiency metrics or just performance-based metrics like PFF, um, you don't see run defense being better just because pass defense sucks. And I think I actually think the front five of our defense has done a very good job on both phases of the defense. Both the pass rush and the run defense of the front five has been pretty good. And, um, you know, the pass rush doesn't get noticed a lot because the coverage is breaking down and they just can't get home before the quarterback has a wide open wide receiver running free over our defense. And yeah, that's because we haven't seen it that much. But still, Zadarius Smith leads the NFL in pressures by actually a pretty good margin. It's 70 pressures for Zadarius, and the next guy is Nick Bosa with 64. So there's actually it's actually not that close. And Daniel Hunter, even though he has been quieter than we know him, is still, I think, eighth in overall grade, tied 10th in pressures. So the pass rush is playing well, and the run defense is too. And I think the run defense gets noticed more because that's the one part of our defense that our coverage can mess up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true too. Is it time to get Brian Asamoah some more reps? I mean, he's supposedly a better in pass in pass, the
Coverage.
passing game. He's faster. Granted, I don't. It will hurt your run game if he's in compared to Jordan Hicks, who I think is a very good run defender. Um, is it time to get Asamoah some more reps? I know we've been sprinkling him in just a bit more here and there. I remember for sure two plays he was in. One, I don't think he necessarily caused the incompletion, but he disrupted the route enough where it was a bad pass. And then I saw him actually he didn't make the play, but he was in on that play in a tackle for loss situation. So I think it's time to give him a little bit more run and see what he can do.
We might see that because Hicks got injured last week, which is why Asamoah got more reps. And I think he hasn't practiced at least yesterday.
He
Um,
did practice limited today.
okay, so I, we'll see if Hicks is going to play, but I think we're gonna see more snaps of him going forward. They have been doing it a little bit more over the last few weeks, and we are going to see it. I'm not sure if he even in coverage is better right now because yes, he is more athletic, but on the other hand, he still has to know which landmarks he's supposed to hit, where he's supposed to be. He has to read the play, get and recognize the route concept and his responsibility there. And this, I
He's really
think,
good at all that, Jonas, because I've watched so much tape of him at Oklahoma. He's our best defender on the defense if we just let him give him an opportunity. He's going to be a star. But that's just my bias
I
creeping in. That's just my bias creeping in. All right. Well,
he
there's a
definitely
lot of
has
good conversation. Go ahead.
he definitely has a very high ceiling as soon as he gets this all together. But I don't know if he's there yet. And I think you can have some packages for him. And that's what the Vikings are doing right now, especially if they want to blitz, because that's the way to actually bring some speed on the blitz if you don't want to bring the DBs. And therefore, I like that, but
Yeah.
I don't think you can put him in a full time role just yet.
Well, clearly, people are still adjusting to this scheme, according to Donatel, and nobody's really playing all that well right now. So I think we just need to give them a shot. But that's just my opinion. So why don't we dive into predictions here? We got a couple minutes left here before we hit the top of the hour. We did not get a media guest this week. Just again, kind of a whirlwind just over the last couple of days of the show and the planning and everything. So that's on me. Apologies for that. So we'll dive right into Jonas. What do we have for a prediction this week?
I definitely think the division will be locked up this week. I'm very confident about this. It's a home game, and the Vikings have played relatively well this season after bad losses, especially the Patriots game after the Cowboys game was a very impressive reaction, and I think this team has shown multiple times that they are capable of countering adversity, and I think they're gonna do that again this week. And I'm very confident they are going to win. And um, yeah, I didn't want to do it, but I actually if I do it rationally, I think we're gonna see the first multiple score victory since week one, because I think the defense will have at least a little bit of a bounce back game. They will force some turnovers. I think this is one of the reasons the defense has looked worse uh, over the last few weeks, because they forced like two turnovers, I think, after they had quite a lot during the run after the bye week. And I think they are going to have two, at least two turnovers this week, and therefore my score prediction would probably be, I I would say it's gonna be 28-19. This Colts defense isn't bad, and obviously the matchup with DeForest Buckner worries me a bit, but the edge rush isn't very good. And I think the offense is going to have a pretty normal day for them. So, it's 28-19. You have a two-score victory in the end. And I think some of the Colts points are going to be garbage time, so it's going to be a little bit more convincing than it sounds just by the score.
Well, there you go. Dave, what do we got?
We win by at least two scores.
Two scores. So you guys are both calling for a big win. You got a score prediction?
We score over 30, so yeah, I'll put it like 35, 20, 21. Something like that.
35. Dang, that's a lot of points against a pretty good defense. But I think
They
I
haven't
think I'm
scored
kind of
over
right there.
33. I want to see them score 35.
I love it. I love it. I think it's gonna be a little bit more modest personally. I'm gonna go with I think the over under is 48 and a half. I think we're gonna hit the under for the week. I'm gonna say 20. Jonas, I'm right there with you. I think I don't think it's a two score win though. 28-20. That'll put me right on the under and a little bit. We're 4-point favorites, so it gives me a little bit more on the points, but I'm going to say 28-20. So hopefully our Vikings can come through. If you haven't come through yet with your Christmas gift ideas, we have That's Badass Wood Art to come save the day here. If you go on to their website, they got so many fun things. It's not just Viking stuff. They got everything from Vikings to other Minnesota sports to TV shows. There's one, The Office, Kevin carrying the chili, I think it was, that I saw on there that I I almost pulled the trigger on. I mean, they just got so much. They also do personalized things. If you send them a photo of your family, they can mock that up and get that out to you as well. If you do go ahead and go to their website to purchase an item there, please use our promo code CT Pocket, and you'll get 20% off your first order, or just off of one item, I believe is how it is. So be sure to check them out. There's a lot of great stuff out there. Perfect Christmas gift ideas. So
Lewis
Dave,
just finished this piece yesterday for a particular customer who wanted JJ doing a gritty.
Love it. I mean, it's so awesome. And I know he's mocking up the JJ incredible catch right now. And and follow him on Twitter. He asks fans for some ideas, or just like kind of their perspective on certain things. So definitely check it out. Dave, what do we have going on for the rest of the week?
Tomorrow night we have Viking hot takes. I've already got the questions from Flip and Eric. They will be going at it. And then Saturday, no 2-0 bloggers. Why? Because we got a football game. That means we have the final score in the last 2 minutes. Join us live as we watch the end of that game, hopefully celebrating an NFC North title.
That would be fantastic. I actually have tickets for that game. I am actively trying to sell them. If anyone's interested, hit me up on Twitter.
You don't want to see him win the NFC North?
I want to go. I also have coaching responsibilities with my kids. My daughter's last basketball games this week as well, which I don't coach her team, but so I'd love to, spend that time with the family. But if I can't sell them, I will be going to the game. So if anyone's interested, let me know. You can always hit me up on Twitter, Sports Guy Rye on Twitter. So Jonas, again, it's like 4 a.m. your time. I appreciate you coming on and joining us. You need to get some sleep. So thank you so much. Dave, can you kind of lead us out here?
What do we say, guys?
Oh, yeah. Skol Vikings.
Skol Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and feel free to rate us on your favorite aggregator. A big shout out goes to our partners, The Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found. To That's Badass Wood Art, when you're looking for something unique to brighten your space. And to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody!